Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we continue on the season for the G4 Sim Racing Hijinx Clothing Company 87 series. This is race number 12. 5 races remain until we crown ourselves a champion, and we're back here at the high banks of the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer, and Sam, when these drivers were here for the season opener, it was almost like a 2.5-mile dirt track, the way that they would slide into the corners. We've been watching these guys in practice. Nothing has changed.
No, it really hasn't. We got to see them racing, like you said, start of the season. The field was much smaller then. It's grown a bit. We're going to have, I believe, a total of 19 drivers on the grid for today's race. So a lot more drivers. And also, these drivers are going to be focusing a lot on how can they enter these corners and really get out safely, as they are going to be loose, sliding still. But the difference is we're going into the nighttime.
Tonight's race, the Firecracker 200, brought to you by Belly Up Sports, and you have to wonder, with a name like that, how many fireworks are we going to see in this one?
Oh, we're going to be seeing a lot. I mean, you and I, we were talking about it. We were trying to figure out how many cars will we see flipping, because these 87 machines, when you're at super speedways, they just have a knack to figure out how to be floating up in the air.
These drivers, as usual, at the super speedways have 2 faster pairs at their disposal as opposed to the regular 1 when we're at short tracks and regular speedways. However, the thing that you and I kind of did a double take about, with the way that we're seeing these drivers have so much pressure on the tires with sliding into the corners, they've only got 2 more sets waiting for them in pit road.
Yeah, we're doing a quick math on it. It's about 28 laps that you're going to have to run on each pair of these tires, unless you feel like pushing it a little bit further and having a little bit more grip at the end of the race. But I mean, I was looking at practice for some of these drivers, and they were already losing a lot of time after just about 8 to 10 laps. So honestly, tires might be the biggest factor by the end of this race.
Course as well, after Michigan last week, the drop races have been calculated, so the points basically have been put together heading down the home stretch for this championship. Christopher Morris Jr. is still your points leader. He's got about little less than 90 points over Jake Hounshell, and then it's about another 6 points back to Dallas Myhan. But we've got some drivers now that, if they have at least a good number of races here down the home stretch, could possibly still be in the hunt for that championship. Hank Steinmiller, Gerald Campbell still have a chance. A couple of drivers that did have a chance that are not in tonight's race, John Whitendorf and Blaine Atkin.
Yeah, Blaine Atkin not able to show up tonight. One of our favorites to start of the season, and Whitendorf not here after winning Talladega in the middle of the season. But the pace car is getting ready to pull off, and we're getting ready to go green.
We'd like to send out our condolences as well to Blaine Atkin, not in the field tonight due to the passing of his grandfather. So this green flag's for you, Blaine, as we're underway here at Daytona. 80 laps of racing, and maybe the smartest guy in the field right there. I think that was the 37 dropping to the back.
Yeah, it's probably one of the safer moves to just drop to the back and try to save yourself, because this is going to be a long race. 80 laps of slipping and sliding at a super speedway. These drivers are going to be averaging over 200 miles per hour around here, and being in a pack, being quick, there's always the potential of taking everyone out.
Up at the front, single file, at least for the top 2. Then you got Jeff Green on the bottom, Jake Hounshell on the top with Gerald Campbell. One thing that I noticed as well, they're running the new Daytona here tonight as opposed to the season opener. That third lane is possible, but there's a cushion you just cannot overstep, because if you do, it doesn't matter if there's contact with another driver or not, you're more than likely going to go up and get sucked into that outside wall.
Yeah, it's that dotted line that you see on the high side. You want to make sure that you stay within there. Don't want to go above it too many times like you're seeing Hounshell do. It's a risky move to be running on the high side. Inside lane is where you prefer to be, but really you're seeing a lot of cars shuffling all over the place. Gerald Campbell, one of the drivers I saw during practice, pushing cars, and he'll be pushing Jeff Green into that 07 on the inside, still side by side up front.
Double wide, 3 rows deep, and then you've got Marshall Strong, Joseph Causey, and Christopher Morris Jr. up in this lead pack for the moment. One thing that these drivers are going to have to be careful of.
Contact!
Contact!
To the around!
Right in the triangle.
44 gets some air. Oh my goodness.
We got another car upside down there. I think that might have possibly been the 46 of Causey that caught some air also.
Well, we questioned when the first one was going to happen, and it happened here on lap number 3 of 80.
And that is so early for a caution to be coming out, because a lot of these drivers, the hits they're going to be taking, they may have to use a faster pair now, and then they spend the next, 70 laps just trying to survive to be there at the end. Something's wrong with the 46 of Joseph Causey. I'm trying to figure out what is the issue. It's like he can't get that car refired.
Well, he got pinched, which then was our second car to launch up, and when he came back down, his whole entire back rear end is like hooked up off the ground, so he can't even get going. The whole entire car, physics-wise, is just broken.
Wow. I don't think I've ever actually seen that happen in an iRacing car, but let's take a look and see what brought out this caution. I think it starts up here with the 83 of Jake Hounshell. Possible contact with, I think it was Cottle in the 13.
Yeah, it was. It was through the tri-oval contact between the 83 and the 13, and everyone else kind of there for a ride. The 44 got some air, the 46 as well, and it wasn't like they were going so fast that they got launched up. It's just with these 87 cars, if you hit them just right, or if you pinch them for the 46, they will actually just pop up into the air and just get some air. And when they come back down, you don't know what type of suspension, toe-wise, what type of damage is going to hurt internally.
Looked like Jerry Parker got involved, Tyler Riggs, 41 of Dallas Myhand got a piece of it as well, and we may not necessarily know the full extent of drivers that may have gotten involved in this one.
Yeah, remember, all these drivers do have two faster pairs to work with, so right now, Causey's not out of this, nor are any of the other drivers who were involved with this accident, but you really don't want to use one of your two faster pairs this early on.
Big problem, though, with that is you don't want to also be running off the pace, because we know that at Daytona, it doesn't matter what type of a car you're driving. If you lose the draft, more than likely that lead pack is going to reel you in very quickly. And for these drivers, they don't have lucky dogs.
No, they don't have... Actually, really thinking about it, they do have lucky dogs here in this series. You don't have any waiver rounds for them to use.
Right. Yep, that's what I meant to say. So, you don't want to run the risk of going a lap down, especially early on, especially the fact if there's several other drivers that are on the same agenda of trying to stay out there, preserve that faster pair, and are running off the pace.
Also, these drivers have to make sure that they click off so they don't accidentally take any tires on these restarts, because it's way too early to use one of your sets.
So it looks like we did have a couple of drivers come down pit road, but it looks like it was possibly just for fuel only. The 45 of Jordan Owens, the 5 of Eric Schaefer, the 81 of Shane Lake. Tyler Riggs looks like he came down and only spent about 7 seconds on pit road, but right now you've got a Jake Hounshell on pit road. It's like he is trying to get as much manual repair done on his 83 as possible, and Joseph Causey trying to do the same there on his 46, but he is now fallen 2 laps down to the leaders.
Yeah, I think Causey actually had to get a tow, which is making him lose even more time on the other drivers around him.
Now, one thing I was going to bring up before we had that wreck there, you've got so many different drivers on different agendas here. If you look at our top 3, Seth Harrelson, Jeff Green, Joseph Cottle. Cottle obviously making his first start of the season. We've seen Green and Harrelson for most of this year, but they're not in the conversation for the championship. And when we come to super speedways like Daytona and Talladega, everybody is on a level playing field. Everybody's got a chance to win. So these guys out here, they're not caring about those other guys that are battling for a championship. They want to finish out the season with a W, and tonight might be their best chance.
Yeah, and it's so awesome that these drivers were able to come out and try to put on the best show that they can, and keep your eyes out on these drivers to see how well they can do here, as these drivers, like we said, have 2 sets of tires to work with. We're going to try to keep track to make sure we know who has faster pairs left at the end of this thing.
All right, now you were talking about the fact that you were seeing those lap times kind of tapering off during practice as the tires were wearing down. These drivers ran about 3 laps under green flag conditions. They're going to be going back green with tires a little bit worn than what they were when we started this race. They're going to be feeling that much of a difference when they go into turn 1?
Not just yet. It was looking like after around lap 3 to 4 to 5, those were when the tires really were getting into their own. So I'm expecting them to continue on and have really good runs at the end of this thing.
Of course, here tonight at Daytona, we're going to have a different winner at this 2.5 mile superspeedway, as the defending winner in the season opener, Ashton Schleiss, is not in the field here tonight. So the question is, who is it going to be? And a long ways to go in this one before we find out. It looks like for those drivers that were involved in the wreck, it looks like the 44 of Marshall Strong, the 26 of Tyler Riggs, the 41 of Myhan Parker, and the 37. They're all continuing on. A couple of drivers spent a little bit of extra time on pit road, I think getting a little bit of repairs done in Strong, Myhan, and Parker. But Riggs, I thought I saw him get a piece of it. Maybe he just got on the brakes and spun because he didn't spend very much time in his pit stall.
No, came in, got some fuel, got back out there. Looked like that was what the 26 did. So looks like he is fine.
Green flag back in the air here for Seth Harrelson and that 07 machine with Jeff Green, Joseph Caudill, Hank Steinmiller, and Christopher Morse Jr., the top five. And, you know, I think it's easy to say that these drivers, they'd love to be able to settle into a long green flag run, but just based on the way the car handles going into the corner, sometimes they don't have control over that.
Yeah, I mean, especially through the tri-oval, that is when you're at your lightest in these cars as well as in the middle of the corners. So those are the two moments you really got to be careful when you're going to be making some moves. Speaking of moves, he's just got in the 10th place. That is going to be Onsen, and that 51 machine has just been deking up and down back here, moving himself up in the 10th place.
And now we've got a battle for the lead using the side draft on the right rear quarter panel. Jeff Green and going to get a push from Hank Steinmiller, or is he? Steinmiller looked like he might have wanted to go up to a third lane and take it 3 wide for the lead into turn 1.
Jeff Green trying to make that outside line work. The 3 of Christopher Morris Jr. rocking a different Dylan Hart Sr. scheme there here tonight. So good to see the gray, a good wrench scheme being thrown out there. And we're starting to see a lot of drivers trying to figure out where they're going to be placed. And on the outside, you're seeing a lot more cars being stacked up. And just in the middle of the corner, that inside line is just doing so much better through the center of the corner. But coming out, the outside line has the run.
I got to say, whoa! Is that Bo Brady? No, I'm sorry. That's actually the 88, I think, that got the wall there.
That was the 9 machine of Bo Brady that got into it.
It's tough to tell him and Kyle Johnson apart. They both got the black and purple there on their machines. That was close there. Almost contact between Steinmiller and Jeff. Oh, we got a wreck. Car flipping over there in turn 1.
That's the 44. More contact being made of cars up front. Looks like Parker that was actually the 46 that might have been involved.
Jake Hounshell in the 83 is smoking on the apron of turn 2.
44 still stuck sideways. It finally teleports back.
Well, that's a definite fast repair for the 83 of Hounshell, I would think. Marshall Strong, second incident he's been involved in tonight.
Yeah, and Marshall is already used to fast repair already, so he might be if he uses another one here, could be already out of fast repairs for the rest of this race.
Hard to tell about the 31 of Gerald Campbell. He was back there as if he maybe got involved in the wreck, but I'm not really, it's a far off view, so I'm not really able to see if there is any visible damage on his 31 machine. This was middle of the pack. I'm not really sure how it started, but it looked like, I think it was the 44 got hooked and went straight up nose first into the outside wall right in the center of 1 and 2. Oh, no, he didn't get hooked. We were talking about the loose sensation. He just flat out lost it.
And there's always that potential of just getting loose and looping it around, and that's what we saw there.
And, oh, man, it looks like the 9 of Bo Brady might have been the one that hit the 44 when he was upside down. You saw Jake Hounshell. Gerald Campbell, I think, was one of those drivers that was saved by netcode. I think he got through unscathed, but barely.
And that's massive for Campbell because he did use a fast repair on that first pit stop. So really needing a good run here today. I think the biggest thing, though, looking at drivers that came in the pits on the first caution compared to now, Jake Hounshell is lucky because he actually stayed in the pits and just took a manual repair. So still had a couple of fast repairs to work with here during this race.
That's a great point. But I was also going to say, you know, this is as equally an important race for both Hounshell and Christopher Morse Jr., since the two of them are first and second in the points coming to this race. for two reasons. Number one, it's the biggest field that we've had so far this season, 19 drivers taking the green flag, so a lot of points can be gained or lost at this point in time. The second reason as well, because this is such a wild card type race, it's really the opportunity for these two drivers to make sure that they at least survive Daytona to keep their points battle up.
Yeah, I mean, surviving is always the key at super speedway racing, and you just got to make sure you're there by the end of this thing. And if you're at least still there, you got a shot. And honestly, the driver that we always know that is great at saving his tires and also saving his fast repairs, that's Dallas Myhan, that 41 machine, someone to watch out for by the end of this race.
Well, folks, as we mentioned, tonight's Firecracker 200 is brought to you by Belly Up Sports. We are what they aren't. We aren't ESPN, Yahoo, Deadspin, or Barstool, nor do we want to be. We're the people you want to hang out with, not the people you want to avoid, so here's hoping you belly up with us. You can check them out at Belly Up Sports, Belly Up Racing, or Belly Up Gaming on Twitter, or bellyupsports.com. Lights are still on atop the pace truck. They may be going out this next time by, but we're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You're not going to miss a thing as Jeff Green paces the field here tonight at Daytona. We're going to go FRN side by side.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the veterans of foreign wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the veterans of foreign wars and fights for the veterans community.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
Most everyone involved in sim racing always wants that edge or even make the experience a little bit better, or in this case, a little.
Getting ready to go back green here on lap 13 of 80 for the Firecracker 200 here in the Hijinx Clothing Company 87 series. Jeff Green gets us back underway, followed by Harrelson, Steinmiller, Morse Jr., and Kyle Johnson makes his first appearance up inside of the top five.
The top five looking clean, starting to pull away. Is Cottle going to be staying back in sixth and kind of drifting back with that second pack, not getting the best restart as they're already side by side for third place.
Brought up the fact that these drivers only have two fast repairs at their disposal, and while we were on side by side there, Sam, I think you compiled the list of drivers that either have none or only one still waiting for them.
Yeah, about half the field has already used one fast repair. Remember, you only have two to work with. The driver that has used all of them and is now out, and if they take any more damage, they have to work with it all race long. That's the 44 of Marshall Strong. And Marshall Strong right now 2 laps down and a heap of trouble because there's a car in front of him that's already 1 lap down.
Here you see him in the 44, the car that you're alluding to. Right behind him, the 46 of Joseph Causey. Right now, the first car -1. Saw the 13 of Josh Cottle, get up there into the outside wall. Lost a ton of momentum and a ton of spots. He's now back to the 12th position. He was 6th when he got up into the wall.
But up front, it's Jeff Green leading the way on the inside. And really what we've been seeing is the inside line is the most preferred line. You're really able to hold on to your position, and no one else can really make a pass on the outside unless you have a lot more momentum pushing you along.
The tough part, though, for those drivers on the inside is that right there. Off of corner exit, you saw leader Jeff Green, the back end, want to step out. The car wants to push up off the corner. Instinctually, you want to turn that car to the left, but you got to make sure that your rear tires are under you.
Yeah, it's a lot of hoping you have space to drift up just a little bit, because on a normal stock cars, the current stock cars that are used, you're able to really hold that inside line and stay on the yellow line. Here with the 87 stock cars, they are struggling just to stay on that inside line off of exit.
Christopher Morse Jr. pushing the 10. Top side, though, looks like it got a much better run down the back straightaway with Steinmiller and Harrelson, so moves Steinmiller to the point. He'll move down to the inside line and lead them back out of turn 4.
And now the 07 of Harrelson's looking for a friend. And Kyle Johnson thought about drifting up, but it was a little too late, leaving the 07 stuck there and drifted on back.
Very tail end of this lead pack, the 51 of Zach Onsen, the 81 of Shane Lake, and just getting a whiff of the draft there is the 26 of Tyler Riggs in the 8th position. Then they're all broken up from 9th place on back.
As the drivers continue to be racing as hard as they are, another stat that I'm going to have to go look back and find out are who are the drivers that have accidentally used their tires already, because you're only able to use you have 3 sets in total, the one that you started off with and 2 in the pits. So a lot of these drivers have to think about saving your tires, and a lot of these drivers have been out there for quite a long time. 16 now 17 laps on these tires. They are brutalized at this moment. It is hard to hold your line.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I just wanted to bring up a question here too that I was thinking about, but I'm not necessarily certain if you would want to pull that off at a super speedway, especially with the lack of grip we're seeing these drivers have into the corner. If you've got 2 sets down there, do you maybe think about splitting it up into 4 pit stops of taking just right side tires possibly?
I mean, that is a possibility that you could do, but at some point you're going to need left side tires. As Arlson's going to get into the wall on that 07, scraping it up, and that was actually a pretty long and hard scrape that he was on. So that's going to be a lot of damage, a lot of momentum lost. It's 3 wide. Oh, more contact made.
Steinmiller was pushed up the track by Jeff Green. Then Green got hooked around by Steinmiller, and Green, you're right, losing a lot of momentum there. A lot of right front damage on his car.
Yeah, he got clipped on the corner and just launched his front end, and it wasn't a square hit where he was just parallel with the wall. It was a lot more of his front right that dug into the outside wall.
And that's going to change the aspect of the front of the field now. You've got Christopher Morse Jr. side by side with Kyle Johnson. Zach Onsen in the 51 now there. And how about Dallas Myhand? We saw him get collected up there in that first wreck back on lap 3 as he drifts it through the tri-oval in the 4th position.
Able to save it, almost kept the momentum to get under the 51. Here it comes out of the tri-oval. Now going to just be following suit for the 51. Also, Tyler Riggs, we've seen him already use a faster pair. He's back up front in the top 5.
I would love to know a fly inside that car and just see if that 41 of Dallas Myhand was off the throttle at all as he's continuing to fishtail it there.
Both the 3 and the 41 got extremely loose out of 2 there and almost wiped each other out as they continue to race on. That outside line has been showing that they are much better once coming out of the corner, just because the inside line can't hold their position as well as the other lane can.
A number of drivers in the field took part in the season opener at Daytona. I would have thought maybe that'd give them a little bit of an added edge here in terms of knowing what the car is going to do. But you just mentioned Myhand, Christopher Morse Jr. Those are 2 drivers that ran the season opener, and they're even struggling.
Yeah, struggling completely. I don't know how Onsen and Johnson did not absolutely clip one another, as Kyle Johnson defending that first place position very aggressively with a couple of blocks there that almost took each other out. 3 wide entering turn number 3.
Oh boy. Are they going to make it through here? It looks like Onsen might be the one dropping back. Maybe not of his own volition, but it is at least going to allow them to make it through 3 and 4 without tearing up their equipment. Boy, that 07 back there of Seth Harrelson, that's at least the 3rd time in a row I've seen him loose off of turn 4.
A driver I'm watching now does not look like he is comfortable in this front pack. That is the 37 of Jerry Parker. And Parker, I've seen him drift up every once in a while, and he's almost taken out the high line in the tri-oval. So keep an eye out for that 37 machine in the tri-oval if he makes contact with anyone else.
One thing that we also have to bring up here too, we're heading into some nighttime conditions here at Daytona. Usually the track starts to lower in terms of temperature, maybe giving these drivers a little bit more added grip. These guys were practicing earlier. The track was 102 degrees. So, I mean, do we see the setup be a little bit more stable for these guys if the track cools down some?
I mean, in some way, you've got grip. It should help the tires not get worn down as quick, but you are going so fast into these corners. These drivers going 210 miles per hour in the corner. Dells my hand. He's able to save it on the outside.
There is an apron at Daytona, and my hand found it there in turn 1. Drove it in just a little too low. Might have actually been at the front end. Turned down there for him. Look up the middle. Kyle Johnson, all by himself, is going to pass about 4 cars down the back straightaway.
Kyle Johnson makes that middle lane work. Now trying to make the outside lane work. He's getting squirrely a little bit there. Able to continue running hard. But like I was saying with the track temp, it is 73 degrees on track temp. These drivers have a lot more grip to work with, but they are also carrying a lot more speed.
I was going to say, if they have a lot more grip to work with right now and they're fishtailing as much as they are, I would have hated to see what they were going to have to deal with in the temperatures that they were dealing with in practice up in the triple digits.
I mean, if you want to really see what triple-digit racing was like, you got to go back and rewatch our first race of the season. But for now, these drivers are putting on a great show, showing off that they are trying their best. But something to watch out for. These drivers that have been staying out and running their laps pretty nicely at the moment, for the drivers that have not pitted yet, they've got to think about pit stops here, probably in the next about 5 to 10 laps.
That's a great point there, is Christopher Morris Jr., Dallas Myhand working together on the bottom. Hank Steinmiller has found Seth Harrelson again. They're working together on the top side. You've got about 12 cars that are up in this lead group currently. Then there's a little bit of a straggle back there with Gerald Campbell. He's about almost a second back behind this lead group. Joseph Cottle back there with him. But then you've got a number of drivers that have lost the draft. Eric Schaefer, Bo Brady back there. They're a long ways behind the field, and looks like Randy Koking in the 11 machine lost a lap. I don't know. Yeah, he was on pit road 5 laps ago.
Yeah, and, you know, sometimes drivers, they need to come in. They got a lot of damage to work with, and I think that's what happened to Koking, who was just trying to find the draft somewhere, but he is about to be put another lap down as, oh boy, Parker was drifting and still drifting through the tri-oval.
Let's remember, too, some of these guys up here in this lead group. Hank Steinmiller in the 63. We saw him and Jeff Green get together. He got the wall before. There's a couple of cars up in the wall there in 1 and 2. That was the 07 of Harrelson, the 81 of Shane Lake. So that's the second time that Harrelson's gotten the wall, but he's been able to draft back up to this lead pack. So it looks like, at least for the moment, unless you take a real violent hit into the outside wall, if you just scrape it, you might still be okay speed-wise.
Yeah, I think Jeff Green might have had the most violent hit so far of on this run, per se, and he's running back in 10th place. Is there 3 wide and back there? Oh, Kyle Johnson went on losing it. He's coming back on the racetrack. It's Kyle Johnson.
No. He's going to have a lot of momentum loss. He's got to get out of the way of this second pack.
No. There goes Kyle. The 45 also spinning, and other drivers as well.
I think that maybe that was Cottle that also got a piece of it. Maybe it was the 45. I'm not really sure why the 88 came back up into the middle of the track when he had lost so much momentum with so many cars oncoming.
You know, just some drivers make some decisions that you will never know the answer to. And Kyle Johnson came up and squeezed the whole entire field. And probably the trickiest part of the track that we've been seeing a lot of drivers have issues. So questionable call, but more drivers having more issues. And driver I'm nervous about, and yeah, he does have damage. That's the 44 machine who has engine damage and is done for the day.
Yep, Marshall Strong's day is over. So also the 45 of Jordan Owens was involved. I think he was the one that got squeezed up into the outside wall as they were trying to make their way around the 88. Not sure who the other car was that got into it. Might have possibly been the 31 of Gerald Campbell, who I believe he said was one of those drivers that's already used one of their faster pairs.
Yeah, Gerald Campbell's already used one. Houndshell's already used one. Looking through some of these drivers that were involved in this wreck, I think about half of them are probably going to be using their final fast repair here just because of engine damage, possibly. As I'll continue to watch once they come into the pits who uses a fast repair and who doesn't, but Marshall Strong has used up all his fast repairs and really has to sit in the pits here probably until almost the end of the race before he can get back out there. So it looks like the 44th day is done.
It was a great save there by Johnson in the 88. What I don't understand is him coming back up onto the track in the middle groove. He probably should have at least kept it down on that double yellow line because they were double wide behind him, and then they had absolutely nowhere to go. They had to split him 4 wide, and there just wasn't room for the 2 cars that were already side by side that went around him on the outside line.
Yeah, and he didn't go to the apron, so he clogged up for the 44, and it's just that you don't really. I'm looking at drivers that were not involved with that, and Joseph Ghazi is going to be given the lucky dog here. So good to see that for that driver.
Take a look here and see. I think it was actually Jeff Green in the 10 that made the contact with Jordan Owens in the 45. And then I think Green got a second hit there from the 44 of Marshall Strong. The other car that was up and into the wall off of turn 4 that might have actually saved him was Shane Lake. He had lost momentum, was able to make his way through this incident. So if Jeff Green didn't have that prior damage, he's got some added on here, but he's one of those drivers that had stayed out for most of this race. So if he wanted to use one of his 2 faster pairs, he could do it now.
Yeah, Jeff Green used the fast pair under this pit road, and I'm continuing to watch to see other drivers. But this wreck, another big one, costs a lot of machines.
Looks like Seth Harrelson got into the wall a couple of times. They're doing some repairs on his machine. Jordan Owens, who got squeezed up into the wall there with that caution, they're repairing his car. Also Shane Lake there in the 81, we mentioned he was into the wall. So drivers just taking the opportunity here, spend as long as they can getting those cars fixed without having to use a faster pair. That's one of the benefits of a track like Daytona as well. The bigger race tracks, you're able to spend a little bit of extra time getting the cars repaired without going a lap down to the leaders.
Yeah, and it's so helpful that you're able to do these faster pairs. And after all the speedway racing that we've done so far, I think it's safe for a lot of these drivers to say, hey, it's better for us to come in, have a lot more faster pairs to have, so we can still continue racing.
Now, one thing we're going to be seeing here, with the timing of this caution and maybe future cautions, as stated, the fact that these drivers only have 2 sets of tires waiting for them on pit road, we're going to see a lot of varying strategies under this caution. If you look right now at our top 3 runners, Dallas Myhan's been out there for 18 laps on his set of tires. I might be wrong, but I think Dallas Myhan actually has not taken on any tires yet in this race, because I think he just did a fuel-only pit stop 18 laps ago. Zach Onson's been out there for 24 laps. He's in second, and Jake Hounshell, who, of course, was on pit road taking a faster pair 19 laps ago, but he's up in the 3rd position.
Yeah, all these drivers trying different strategies out. But right now is probably the best time to take tires, and that's why most of the field did take them at this time.
Looks like Hank Steinmiller will be the highest starter here on this restart in 4th. He was just on pit road, as was Jerry Parker, who will restart 5th, followed by Jeff Green, Kyle Johnson, Gerald Campbell, Tyler Riggs, and Eric Schaefer. You mentioned the fact of Joseph Causey getting the free pass, so 17 cars will be on the lead lap when we go back green. Randy Koken is 1 lap down in 18th, and Marshall Strong, the struggles continue for the 44. Still on pit road, trying to see if he can at least get out there and salvage something, but the longer that he stays on pit road, the more laps that he loses. When we get closer and closer to the end of this race, the least likely it is that he's going to be able to pick up some spots before the checkered flag and gain some points. Green flag back in the air here as we're closing in on the halfway point at Daytona. Dallas Myhan, whose car looked awfully unstable there on the last run, he's going to be the one to lead us down into turn number 1.
And they continue to run hard here. It's all about really trying to stay as clean as possible here, as they're still side-by-side for our front 2 and continue to be side-by-side all the way through the field.
We'll see if they all get spread out again like they did on that last run, or if we're going to continue to have pack racing like we did at the initial drop of the green flag, as Hank Steinmiller pushing Dallas Myhan down the back straightaway. And that's another thing that you're going to be seeing. Yes, the draft works if you're close up to another car, but I really don't think we're going to see drivers run the risk of locking bumpers down these straightaways.
No, and it's smarter not to lock bumpers, just because there's a certain point where if you don't hit the driver in front of you square, you're going to be taking them for a spin. As drivers continue to be side by side, Steinmiller on the outside, Dallas Myhan on the inside, and here comes Kyle Johnson.
That's Parker in the 37, right back up the track.
Oh my goodness. Christopher Morris Jr. is just as lucky as Gerald Campbell. Oh
Parker
my
is
goodness.
all torn up. There's another car just up ahead. I think got a piece of it. The 07 of Seth Harrelson.
Yeah, the 3 of Christopher Morris Jr. went through the 07 of Harrelson and somehow survived with no damage.
It's like a 2-car incident there, and boy, that's the toughest place to have a wreck take place. If it's not in the center of the tri-oval, it's over in the middle of 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, because when the car shoots back up the track, it's so difficult to know if that car is going to go all the way up to the outside wall or if it's going to drift back down. It's one of those cases of pick a lane and hope the car isn't there by the time you reach him.
Yeah, and that's just oval racing in general. You're really just picking your lane, hoping for the best most of the time.
Well, that's certainly going to be a fast repair for the 37 of Parker.
Which that should be his last fast repair of the night.
And we'll see just exactly how much of a hit Seth Harrelson took. Oh, man. 37 just went around on its own. Oh, wow. Oh, goodness. Another car got a pretty good shot in that. Might have been the 45 of Jordan Owens. I think it was, yeah. He took a second shot there into the already spun out 37 of Jerry Parker.
I mean, it's so hard, right? You're trying to run as aggressive as possible here, but we're still early in this race. We haven't even gotten to the halfway marker, and some of these drivers have already looking like they're going to be out of fast repairs to work with for this race. Shocking to see, really.
Got to go back and look. Might have been another driver that got involved in this, or either that or he nearly spun out trying to avoid, and that is Tyler Riggs in the 26. Not sure if he just got down there on the double yellow line trying to avoid, or if he did indeed make some contact with the 07 of Harrelson. And, woo! Nope, didn't hit anything. But, man, he drifted all the way through turn 2, and a heck of a miss there for Tyler Riggs, and maybe a little bit of an early birthday present for him there as Tyler Riggs celebrating his birthday here today. Everybody at FRN would like to say happy birthday to our broadcast colleague as he's trying to pick up his first win here in the series.
And Tyler Riggs has been very close at a lot of these races. He's finished second and third at so many tracks in the middle of the season and coming to now. And expecting him to still have a good run here. Still has one fast repair to work with. So should be running well. And it looks like Jerry Parker might need a push from someone, as I think that engine is completely gone.
I think you're right. Right now, turtling at about 20 miles per hour into turn 3. There is no way, if that car is continuing to lose RPMs, that he is going to be able to make it back around to pit road. And this may be one of two things that he's doing. Either one, he's trying to see if he can get back to pit road, which I don't think is possible, or he's trying to lessen his tow time, because the closer he can get to pit road entrance, the less amount of tow time he's going to have to take.
Yeah, but with how much he's doing this, he's wasting time. By the time he tows, Seth Harrelson, who towed immediately, is going to be already off and going. So I don't think he might have been thinking, hey, this is going to save time, but overall, it really hasn't.
Now, where's the 37 in terms of fast repairs available? Because maybe he's already used his up and he's trying to make it back to pit road knowing he doesn't have any more.
He's already used one, and if he wants to continue racing here, he's going to have to use his final one of the day. Seth Harrelson, though, in the 07, he'll be using his first for fast repair as he's now getting his service done.
Of course, Harrelson had to use the fast repair, but he's lost a number of laps because, as we saw, well, actually, no, he was back on all four wheels, so I'm not sure. Did he use a fast repair? Because he's been on pit road for nearly 4 minutes now.
Yeah, no, Seth Harrelson was taking a tow, and it took that long for him to finally get around. And then he also just got himself fresh tires. The 07 back out there on track.
So 2 laps down to the leader is what Harrelson will be. He's obviously going to have to rely on some free passes, some cautions, and some lucky dogs to get back on the lead lap. Jerry Parker has already lost 1 lap and is still sitting there coasting through 3 and 4, and now at 3 miles per hour, and now it's done. Now he has to teleport it to pit road.
Which we'll see. I mean, like I said, overall, he's lost time. He is just losing more and more time. Seth Harlson, who teleported immediately, already back on track. By the time that Parker gets back out there, he might be 4 laps down.
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty certain that Dallas Myhand was the runner-up finisher back in the season opener at Daytona. Yeah, he was. Half a car length. Came up short to Ashton Schleiss coming to the checkered flag. So you think he's got some Daytona redemption possibly on his mind. As he'll lead us back down here to the green. Lap 35 goes on the board. We're almost halfway here at Daytona.
And Jakar's ducking it down low. That's going to be Johnson who decides to duck it under the 63. Gets a little bit loose. Able to hold on, though.
Jeff Green right behind him in the 10. Zach Onson in the 51 up on that outside line. And some of these guys, you got to be a little bit worried for them up here because they've already used a faster pair. I see the 83 back there of Jay Hounshell.
Hounshell is trying to finally move forward. He had to use one faster pair due to losing his engine for caution number 2. He's worked his way up. Jeff Green had to use a faster pair after that last caution, and a lot of these machines slowly moving their way forward. And finally, we're seeing some drivers that were running up front, back up front.
Bo Brady there in the 9 machine. See him 6th on the racetrack unofficially right now. Of course, has been able to make it further in this race than he did last week at Michigan. Got involved in 2 early wrecks and retired out of the race prior to lap 15. So obviously doing much better here tonight, Daytona. Boy, that would be the sweetest ultimate revenge here if he was the first DNF last week at Michigan, and yet he was the first person to cross the start-finish line with the checkered flag waves tonight at Daytona.
Yeah, Bo Brady really looking for redemption here today and already feeling comfortable as he is.
Oh,
Dallas. He's in the wall. He's just riding it.
Everybody's going to get around him as he gets loose again. They're coming off of the wall. Man.
I mean, that's just, it's terrifying at times.
It is. It really is. I could tell you, when Michael and I did the season opener here at Daytona, your pulse rate goes up every time these guys go into the corner because you see that back end come around, and it's always a question, are they going to be able to save it, or is that thing going to snap completely around?
And right now, it's going to be Steinmiller. Getting a little bit of contact by Green. They're still oh my goodness, I don't know how Steinmiller saved that.
That's the second time those two have made some contact here tonight. Remember, Green and Steinmiller got together over in the tri-oval earlier on.
And, you know, some of these drivers, they did practice during practice trying to do bump drafting. And in those moments, it's just a little bit of a misjudgment thinking you're clear or you're about to get squared up. And you just closing rate on some of these drivers is way faster than they were expecting it to be.
Oh, man, Jeff Green, I thought for a moment there he was going to go around off the nose of Zach Onson. He tried to squeeze his car down in front of the 51, and I wasn't sure if Onson was going to let him in. Bo Brady struggling with that 9 car back there as well, just in front of Onson.
And now we're seeing a little bit of a switch for our top 2. Green now just trying to hug that bumper of the 63 of Steinmiller. And Steinmiller is just in cruise control. He's looked like the most stable machine for a little bit here, but I might have just jinxed him. You never know. As you're really never truly stable here at Daytona.
You know, it's incredible that we've been at Daytona earlier on the season, Talladega towards the middle portion of the year. Neither one of our former Super Speedway Series winners are in tonight's event. So we're guaranteed a different Super Speedway winner here this evening, and a lot of names up here. Look at Kyle Johnson again up the middle by himself.
It's the same move every time. He's second in line on the inside, and once he comes out at 2, he just ducks and finds space in the middle and just has that momentum to carry him forward and into the lead. That's something for other drivers to keep their eye on, as Jeff Green now moving the 88 up into the high side.
The thing I don't understand of how he's able to make that work, when we go to the super speedways, when you're put in the middle, that's known as a sucker hole. You're going backwards. He's making forward progress in that middle line.
I'm nervous, though, when he's on the outside because he just starts wiggling around. Something to watch out for all the other cars is it looks like he's got that speed when he comes out of 2 when he's on the inside lane, but when he's leading and doesn't really have that toe from the car in front of him, he kind of just stalls out.
Gotta wonder if maybe it's possible if you're in somebody's draft, that might help to tighten the car up, that little bit of aero push, maybe allowing you to turn into the corner as opposed to being the car out there in clean air.
It should, but wreck in the
Caution.
back.
It's Eric Schaefer in the 5, Jordan Owens in the 45. That's at least the third wreck he's been involved in.
Tyler Riggs involved in another wreck.
At least 3 cars involved in this one. Looked like it happened possibly just entering into turn 4.
And those are some drivers that have already used some fast repairs. We'll see if they're going to have to use even more now.
Didn't look like a lot of damage on Tyler Riggs. Eric Schaefer, like he had to teleport his car back to pit road. Jordan Owens was at least able to drive into his stall, but a lot of smoke billowing from beneath his machine.
Owens is done.
We had an airborne car. I think it was Owens. This was a battle, 3-way battle for position, and all 3 cars in the battle involved in this one.
I'm kind of shocked that Owens is out, though, because on my markers, it said that he still had a fast repair left. So I'm shocked that he is out of this race.
I thought it was Owens that got airborne. It was actually Eric Schaefer that went up and into the air there in turn 4. Well, Jordan Owens got squeezed into the wall by Jeff Green. I think he got involved in that wreck back on lap 3 as well in the trial, so he might have actually used a fast repair there. Not sure where he might have used the second one or not.
I used one at the start in the first caution. I think he might have used the second one on the caution previous to this one, and that's why he is out and completely done with this race.
Oh, wow. Tyler Riggs, he kind of got through relatively unscathed when the contact happened between the 5 and the 45, but then he got sideswiped by an oncoming Randy Coking. So that is going to be some pretty good left side damage to the 26, and we'll have to see. As you mentioned, Tyler Riggs has already used one of his fast repairs. Does he use the other one now, or does he wait as we are now into the second half of this race?
I mean, for now, it looks like he's just going with repairs on and doing manual repairs for that 26.
Like Randy Coking is doing the same. Seth Harrelson is going to be the recipient of the free pass, so he'll be getting one of his 2 laps back. Now to -1. Get another caution, and that 07 would be back on the lead lap, and he's been a front runner in the early stages of this race, up inside of the top 5 most of the night before running into his issue with that wreck that took place over in turns 1 and 2.
Another car that has decided to park it for the day. Eric Schaefer is done in the 5.
That's 2 drivers out of the race. It's going to allow Jerry Parker to finish at least 16th as he's running 3 laps down. Marshall Strong, they're still trying to get that car repaired as he's spent the last 20 minutes or so on pit road. Right now, 18 laps down. He does mathematically have a shot if he were to go out right now to be able to pick up a couple of positions. I think if we got to around, well, depending on how long he spends on pit road, I think if we got to around completion of lap 63, his chances of picking up any spots here at the end of this race would be null and void.
Yeah, I mean, for Marshall Strong, he's going to be staying in the pits, trying to get those repairs done. The only problem is he blew his engine, so that's about a 30 to 40 minute long required time for him to be in the pits to get those repairs done before he even has a chance to get out there on track. And he's only been in pit road for about 20 minutes now. I just don't think there's enough time with the way that the lap's been ticking away for him to get any more positions from right now.
So as the lights are out atop the pace truck here in the back straightaway, it will be Jeff Green, the race leader, when we go back. Followed by Christopher Morse Jr., Kyle Johnson, Bo Brady, Josh Cottle. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Joseph. Josh Cottle, Shane Lake. Those drivers all decided to stay out here under this caution. Coming to pit road and taking fuel only were Gerald Campbell and Joseph Causey, but looks like we did have a couple of drivers decide to take some tires here past the halfway point.
Yeah, we coming into the pits, you've got Dallas Myhan deciding it's time to come in and use some tires, as well as Houndshell, Coking, and Tyler Riggs, all deciding to get repairs done as well as tires.
So Hank Steinmiller, who was the race leader when that caution came out, he'll be restarting back in the 9th position. Highest driver right now on fresh tires as the green flag is back in the air, and I wondered if we were going to see some drivers duck down to the inside like they did in the last restart. Nobody really did this time.
Yeah, everyone kind of playing it nice so far, and I think that's the best way to go right now. Keep it easy. There's still one pit stop really for some of these drivers, so they're just thinking about taking it nice and easy for now. And, looking at my sheet that I had of drivers that haven't used the fast repair yet, drivers that could be starting to be pretty reckless. You've got the 63 of Steinmiller, as well as the 3 of Christopher Morris Jr., Dallas Myhan, Onsen, Coking, I believe, still hasn't used his either. Those are drivers that are really can start running a little bit more aggressive than others because they haven't used a single fast repair and they've got 2 to work with.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure, even though you've got 2 to work with, if you want to do it this early. The tough thing, too, about the multiple fast repairs, or even just the one fast repair that they have most weeks, is when to use it. I mean, there's no telling that these final 35 laps might be run under green flag conditions, and drivers that maybe could have used their fast repair under this caution wouldn't have the opportunity to.
They were 3 wide battling for 7th place, and somehow they survived. The car that dropped back was Lake in the 81 machine, as they continue to be racing hard back here just for 7th and 6th place, as our front 5 are just staying single file.
Saw Hank Steinmiller and Zach Onsen down there below the double yellow line as Shane Lake was dropping back. I think that, this league follows a lot of the 1987 rules. Not sure it follows the rule that you can go down there and advance your position. I think that the post-2001 rules apply in that case.
I believe that they still have the chance to pass someone inside. I think it might have been... I could be wrong just by stating this, but I think that you can advance your position on the final lap under the yellow line.
Ooh, well, that would definitely bring something into play interesting here as, whoa, Campbell got tight there underneath of Kyle Johnson, nearly got up into him and then nearly lost it off the corner trying to get off the 88's left rear quarter panel.
Yeah, these drivers, they're running close. They are making a lot of aggressive moves starting up, and it makes sense. We're past the halfway marker. Now is your time to, for some drivers in the current day stock cars, you'd still be waiting for your time to make it forward. For right now, you're seeing it takes some time to move up to the front. Now is your moment to do so.
Jeff Green and Christopher Morris Jr. trying to hold off that outside line that's starting to form. Gerald Campbell leading the charge with Kyle Johnson, but they need a little bit more help up there.
Just a tad bit more. I mean, we've seen Kyle Johnson do a pass on the inside all on his own. Let's see if someone else can try to do that, but it looks like Christopher Morris Jr. is pretty content at just staying on the inside line and letting these laps tick away. Drivers that are going to have to pit before everyone else, though, in this front pack, Jeff Green, as well as Christopher Morris Jr., as well as Kyle Johnson, did not pit on that last restart, so they're going to have to think about pitting here under green if we stay green for the next 20 laps or so.
Hard to see him here at this angle, but there you see him, 4th car on that inside line. That is Joseph Causey, who all the way back on lap 3 we saw had major suspension problems, couldn't even drive his car back to pit road after getting involved in a big wreck out of the tri-oval.
Yeah, that's been the only huge wreck for that 46 machine, who has had a little bit bumps and bruises here, but has been able to work on it during the pit stops and has been able to save that final fast repair. A lot of these machines up here, I mean, I think that's something to take into account is a lot of the drivers that have been racing all season long, they were thinking, hey, I need to fix my machine under caution and manually fix it and don't waste my fast repairs early. While a lot of these drivers that it's their first time running have already just blown through most of their fast repairs early on.
Definitely a place where prior experience comes into play. One thing I'm seeing here with Jeff Green, he's trying to work both lanes, inside and outside, kind of trying to Earnhardt Jr. it here. The one thing I'm a little bit worried about for any driver that would find themselves out in front leading this race in the closing stages, we saw Kyle Johnson be able to all by himself make moves up the middle. Hank Steinmiller's been doing really well of getting a run, getting to the right rear quarter panel and swinging around the outside for the race lead as Campbell's into the wall there. It's certainly looking like you might be at a disadvantage if you're leading this race on the final lap just based on the amount of runs drivers are able to get on the race leader.
Yeah, but we're not seeing a lot of drivers really being too defensive as a leader and trying to block those runs that drivers are getting. They're being pretty lenient and giving each other space. If you have the run, utilize it, make the pass, let's get back in line. While for later on in this run and to the end of the race, these drivers are going to be thinking, it's got to defend my position. You're not making this pass. And that's going to be costing some drivers their cars just because of a late block. Could ruin your day.
Bright red 63 of Hank Steinmiller, right now the highest running of the drivers that were on pit road under the last caution. Dallas Myhand on the top side, third on that outside line, also was on pit road under the last yellow flag. Other drivers up here in this lead pack, Zach Johnson in the 51 and Bo Brady in the 9, also on fresher tires than these other drivers around them.
They're still running as hard as they can, and they're going to continue to just stay single file for now. But honestly, with 20 laps to go, these drivers are just going to ramp it up even more than they are right now. A lot more aggressive moves are going to be placed. As on the outside line, here comes Dallas Myhand trying to push that 88 machine and pushing them forward if possible, but Kyle Johnson's just getting wiggling a little bit on the outside.
Man, he was fishtailing into turn 1. You saw him start on the outside line. He was almost down into Jeff Green's door by the time they got to the center of the corner. That car was so loose. X factor at the tail end of this pack is that green, that bluish green 07 of Seth Harrelson. Now, he is one lap down in the free pass position, but we saw him and Hank Steinmiller working together really well early on. He might be able to get up here and be a drafting partner if that 63 wants to make a move.
I think the driver that's kind of in wait mode, it's got to be the 83 of Houndshell. He is last in line in our front pack, and he's just waiting to see who and where the next caution is going to be at.
Let's not forget, too, that Jake Houndshell, I believe, has used at least one, maybe both of his faster pairs, so this might be a self-preservation tactic on his part. And remember, too, I mean, this is Daytona. You've got to survive, and he is second in the points, trying to reel in Christopher Morse Jr. to make it a championship battle.
Yeah, Christopher Morse Jr. running third, feeling pretty good about himself. He's really just been following Green, and that's where he's just been feeling content. As we're seeing the drivers that have been just swapping back and forth that are on the high side. But it looks like Kyle Johnson might finally have enough to come down if he wants, but continues to stay on that high line.
Got a pusher in the form of Joseph Causey in the 46. So the 88 will go to the front. Causey now trying to get a run to his outside with help from Dallas Myhand and the lap machine of Seth Harrelson.
I mean, it's so crazy with faster pairs and the way that these having the lucky dog in place. Kyle Johnson, the driver we questioned during, I believe that was caution number 3 that came out when he came back onto the track, is running up here in our top 5 as Dallas Myhand gets a little bit loose out of 4.
Yes, he did, right in front of Seth Harrelson. Keeps it together, though, as now Causey going to try and control the draft, but here comes that outside line with a big run. Dallas Myhand, ooh, look at Causey trying to get some side draft there. Almost wrecked the 41 going into turn 1.
That is 3 very strong cars on the high side. You've got Dallas Myhand, you got Harrelson, and then he also got Christopher Morse Jr. As they're now 3 wide again. That's the same move that the 88 car did before. Trying to make it work again. Doesn't have the momentum this time. They stay 3 wide for the lead.
And now he's going to be 3 wide in the middle in the corner. That's maybe not going to work out for him as it did on the straightaway. Seth Harrelson a little wide in the corner again. That outside wall has not been his friend here tonight at Daytona.
Another factor to watch out for are the tires. Tire wear, something to watch out. As the cars that are running 1-2, that's the 46 and the 88. They are on the freshest tires compared to Dallas Myhand. That is that's actually the 88 is on older tires. So it's kind of concerning.
Harrelson across the nose of, I think that was Tyler Riggs. Caution will come out as he saved it.
It was Josh Cottle that got spun around.
So that's why the caution came out. I was wondering after the 0-7 was able to keep it straight why the yellow came out, but to your point, turn 2, Josh Cottle going to be looping it around, and I don't know with the fact that Seth Harrelson was spinning, he saved it, but I don't know if that would classify as being involved in the wreck or not, whether the 0-7 would be in line for the free pass here or whether or not he would have to wait for another caution.
I believe since he didn't make any contact when the yellow was thrown, the 0-7 should not be technically involved in this caution and should get the free pass.
Take a look at his adventure here through 1 and 2. He nearly had the thing saved, and then Tyler Riggs was right there, and oh boy, there's a little bit of contact there. Oh, and then Joseph Cottle. I'm not sure if Cottle ran into the back of Riggs or what, but his car just all of a sudden shot up to the right, up to the outside wall.
Yeah, it was just a funky spin on himself, really. He didn't really make any contact with anyone else. Maybe that was the netcode issue that popped the 13 up, but it looked like he was just trying to avoid Tyler Riggs, and due to his aggressive move up to the wall, it shot his car into the outside wall and causing massive damage for the 13 machine.
Yep, you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. He was moving up to the outside to avoid the 26, who was obviously on the brakes with the 0-7 coming down in front of him, and unfortunately, his good Samaritan move cost him a lot. Cottle is as far as fast repairs taken. I think he may have used 1 up to this point.
Yeah, Cottle's used 1, so he should be using his last one here with this heavy damage, but you never know. Some drivers are thinking, I'm better off working and trying to fix up my machine as best as I can. I mean, Cottle, our pole sitter of today's race, overshoots his pit stall, trying to get back in there, and will utilize his final fast repair of the evening. And we'll check to see what other drivers have utilized their fast repairs during this pit stop.
Before that wreck took place, most of the drivers that had stayed out after the previous caution were out there on about 25-lap-old tires. Drivers that had pitted under the previous caution were on 14-lap-old tires, and 2 drivers who have not pitted since 2 cautions ago still out there. Race leader Kyle Johnson and third place running Christopher Morse Jr. Obviously, they want to probably save that final set of tires in case we get a late race yellow. However, let's say we don't get a late race yellow. That's going to be about, 50-lap-old tires they're going to be running on at the checkered flag.
Yeah, it's a lot that they're going to be dealing with, and concerning for sure. Another driver that decided to use their final fast repair of the evening, Tyler Riggs. That 26 machine is now done with fast repairs.
So Tyler Riggs has got to keep his nose clean here, at least for maybe the final 15 laps before charging his way up there to try and take this victory. He talked about how many runner-up finishes Tyler Riggs has had this season. Most recently, last week at Michigan, finishing second place to his teammate Gerald Campbell, as Kyle Johnson now brings his car down pit road, giving up the race lead. Interesting that he decides to come to pit road now, when in all likelihood he could have restarted up in the 4th position had he come to pit road the lap before. Now he's going to be all the way back somewhere around the 14th position.
Well, Seth, to be fair, this 88 machine has been confusing us all night, so I'm not surprised that he'll be doing, again, another thing that we just don't know. Also, under this pit stop, looked like, yes, Seth Harrelson, that spin that he had did cause him to not get the lucky dog. That went to Jerry Parker.
Parker getting one of his laps back now, -2, is in the 16th position in the running order. Harrelson will have to wait for another yellow flag to get back onto the lead lap. We currently have 16 cars that are running, 14 of them on the lead lap.
I got an update on why John Whitendorf, the 33 car, our winner at Talladega, did not show up. He's got some family in town, so decided to spend some family time and to park it here for the night.
So as stated, our 2 previous Super Speedway winners not here this evening. We're guaranteed a brand new one And Dallas Myhan's going to now be the race leader, inheriting it from Kyle Johnson, who came to pit road. He'll be followed by Christopher Morse Jr. Jake Hounshell will line up in third position. So apparently, I'm guessing this is go time for the 83 because we kind of saw him riding at the tail end of the lead pack before.
Yeah, I would say that it's time to go for himself. I mean, he's on the same tire stint as the 41 is, so we'll see if both the green and black machines can run up front. Pace truck is off. Green flag back in the air. Dallas Myhan leads the way.
You've got 4 lead lap cars and 1 lap down machine in your top 5 with Seth Harrelson there in the 07 because in the 87 rules, the lead lap cars and the lap cars all line up together. And now you got Dallas Myhan, no friends on that outside line as Christopher Morse Jr. and Jake Hounshell. They're going to go to 1 and 2 off of turn 2.
Seth Harrelson going to be trying to unlap himself the hard way in that 07 machine. Third in line. That is a lap car. These are not for positions for himself. Everyone else, though, they are on the lead lap.
Joseph Causey way up the track there. It's hard to tell if he got forced up there, if he's trying to purposely drop back to the tail end of this group. Doesn't want to run too high there through the corner and get caught up into the wall.
Yeah, most of the time that you're running that high, it's due to the fact that you just got too much speed into the corner and you're just trying to save your car and hoping that you don't get into the outside wall.
Double wide from second place on back. Now for the race lead, Christopher Morse Jr. Big run there through 3 and 4 on the bottom. Will get alongside, actually that was 1 and 2, will get alongside of Jake Hounshell down the back straightaway. Harrelson looked like he wanted to peek out 3 wide.
Harrelson, like we said, going for in that 07, looking for a way to unlap himself. It will be the hard way if he gets by our leaders and stays in front of them if a caution comes out. The easiest way for himself would probably wait for a caution to come out, give himself the lucky dog, but he cannot be the cause or involved in the caution. That's something the 07 has to watch out for.
Looks like we've got 12 cars up in this lead pack. 11 of them are on the lead lap, include also the 07 of Seth Harrelson. Shane Lake in the 11th spot is the tail end driver. So there are drivers back here like Josh Cottle. Kyle Johnson is way back here. Actually, Kyle Johnson, not sure what happened to the 88, but he lost a lap. He's currently in the 15th position, 1 lap down.
Yeah, Kyle Johnson is extremely off, and he came into the pits. I think he might have got a penalty for himself, possibly. Well, he might have gotten a penalty for speeding when he came into the pit road, possibly.
Oh, that's really going to cost him, as right now he's not even in line for the lucky dog. Right now, that's Seth Harrelson, who's the first car 1 lap down. So, boy, a guy, whoa, as Steinmiller found the apron there in 1 and 2. He shoots almost up to the outside wall, but Kyle Johnson, who was looking like he could definitely be a challenger for the win here tonight, may just have taken himself out of this race. As here we go, outside line forms again. It's Campbell and Causey.
Campbell, Causey, then you also got a Hounshell following suit. All 3 machines that are very hungry for wins, and we've already seen Hounshell get a couple this season. Campbell's gotten a couple as well, and everyone aiming for that 3 machine who is on the inside for, yes, the race win here, as well as for the points, as Christopher Morse Jr. has just been on a cruise control on the points side of things as he's leading the points.
Gerald Campbell looking for 3 wins in a row here tonight. Really likes the big tracks. He took a checkered flag 2 weeks ago at Pocono, followed it up with a win last week at Michigan, and now trying to win here at the over 2 mile super speedway.
And has a great chance to do it in this 31 machine. Only has used 1 fast repair, still has 1 to work with. And, I continue to talk about fast repairs. I tried to go back and calculate who has tires, who doesn't, but it was just so much work to really look back and see because some drivers were just taking 2 tires at times, others taking 4 tires on their pit stops. A lot of these guys are running low on tires. The one machine that I know still has a pair to work with, that's Christopher Morse Jr. in that 3 machine. He has only pitted once this race.
You know what else Christopher Morse Jr. has that most drivers in the field don't? That's 2 fast repairs at his disposal. He hasn't really been involved in any incident at all this evening, and he's got 2 fast repairs if things get crazy here in the closing stages.
Also, the 63 of Steinmiller, he's got 2 fast repairs to work with, and Dallas Myhan. So Those are your 3 front runners that are feeling confident with having 2 fast repairs, and if they make an accident here, they're still in it.
And a driver that might be losing this lead pack. That is the 26 of Tyler Riggs. You see him snaking around back there, trying to find a whiff of draft to get back up here with the top 10. If they continue to race side by side, he does have a chance of being able to catch back up. It looks like visibly he is reeling that group back in.
Yeah, he was close enough. Really, to lose the draft, you have to be more than a half second back, and luckily Riggs was about 4/10 back, so he still was close enough on Lake's back bumper. But our front group, they are getting antsy, and they are making some bold moves as we're inching closer. Oh no! Harlson hard into the wall as they're still 3 wide back in 5th place.
Sounds like a broken record. Harlson and Wall in the same sentence as Houndshell's going to get up the middle, take a couple of positions away from Hank Steinmiller and Joseph Causey. Another thing we have to remember for these drivers as well is the fact that being the 1987 rules, there are no green-white checkers. The 80 laps is all we run. The race could end under caution. We've run about, 2 pace laps, I think, here under these caution periods, so it's pretty much go time by time we reach the completion of lap 78.
Gerald Campbell got forced under. He had to get back onto the course. They're 3 wide now for 5th place. And that's going to be Gerald Campbell, Bo Brady, and also that's going to be Houndshell trying to hold off. But Christopher Morse Jr. is blinking a ton up front, leading this race, and that is dangerous with how close everyone is.
Certainly is. Saw him having some connection problems earlier on in this race. It had settled out, but now it is back. Looks like he might be moving up to the outside line to get out of the way. Almost came and reappeared back into the 41 of Dallas Myhan.
To get out of the way, he puts himself into the wall. The 3 still blinking on the outside, but is out of the way for most of these drivers. Give Dallas Myhan now the lead as he is on 26 lap old tires, and that is going to be another aggressive move by Gerald Campbell, moving himself back in line, now 3rd on the inside.
Yeah, he was down below that double yellow line, almost got to the inside of Zach Onsen by the time they got into turn 3. Thought better of it, though, as the 51 wasn't giving him much room.
Now, Onsen is another one of those drivers that still has 2 fast repairs to work with. So that 51 and 41 that are leading this on the inside, feeling comfortable. Here comes Houndshell and Steinmiller on the outside. Bo Brady gets loose.
Brady, is he going to save it? He's looping it.
Nope. Oh, car flipping. That's Christopher Morse Jr.
First incident the 3 car is going to be involved in tonight. I think another driver that may have gotten maybe a slight piece was Shane Lake in the 81. Either that or he was really slow trying to avoid it.
He got through it. He had to split both cars that were involved in that incident. But Christopher Morse Jr. had contact with Causey and had contact, put the 3 into the outside wall, and he just went tumbling from there.
Dallas Myhan leads them back to the caution flag, and boy, you thought that from the drop of the green to start this race up to this point, these drivers were racing aggressively. We are going to be going back green with less than 10 laps to go here this evening at Daytona.
Yeah, we'll recount the laps, but I believe it's about 3 laps of pace lap that they're going to be dealing with. So that means that the drivers are going to be dealing with a total of, I think the final lap, if there's a caution, then it's done, would be about 77 to 78 would be the last time.
You would be right. If we were able to give out an award for the longest wreck, probably would go to Bo Brady. I mean, that was about 3-4 times that car should have snapped around. He was able to save it most of those times. Finally, it overcorrected up into the wall, but it had nothing to do with Christopher Morse Jr.'s wreck.
I mean, there was a little bit involved there. I mean, everyone had to back up, check up, and Causey had to move up into the 3, and that's what caused the 3 to then jump into the wall. So there was a little bit of chain reaction there, but Bo Brady, trying to do his best Kyle Busch impression, was not able to completely save that 9 machine, though.
Well, good news for Christopher Morse Jr. Didn't use any of his faster pairs yet. We'll certainly have to use one here, and now with 10 laps to go, I mean, you know, if you were talking about guys like Dallas Myhan and Zach Onsen that haven't used their faster pairs, I'm certain that they haven't gone through this race without some contact with some drivers. Do you think this is the time that, since they've got 2 in the bank, you use one of those faster pairs now, just get whatever bit of damage you might have sustained, whether it be very minor or not, just get that faster pair now and get a clean car? You
would completely, now is the time. If you have a faster pair, you use it now, or you're banking on another quick caution here within the 2 laps of going green. But it's either use it now or hold it until maybe another caution comes out. But it's most likely we might be going until a yellow finishes this thing.
It looks like they're not going to take it, and maybe the main reason is because where we see them right now, first and third. They don't want to give up all that track position, be back in all that bedlam on these final, what are looking like going to be maybe about 7-8 laps. They'd rather, bite the bullet, have whatever little bit of damage they've got, but keep their track position, because probably if they came to pit road, everybody else behind them would still stay out.
Christopher Morris Jr. had a fast repair to work with, but it doesn't look like he ticked his fast repair, so he is manually repairing his damage. I think that was an error on his part to do that.
Wow. It's a big error, because that is possibly, that car was so mangled up, that's going to at least, I think, lose him one lap here. Speaking of lap, Seth Harrelson gains his back, so he will be back on the lead lap in the 13th position.
Yeah, Christopher Morris Jr. If drivers were looking for a bad day for the 3, you might have gotten it here. We've got a big field, and 14th, maybe even later than that, might be where the 3 car finishes out this race due to a simple mistake that we've seen mistakes go out throughout the season, costing drivers wins. Biggest notably, Campbell, when he lost Darlington because of his mistake, and now this for Christopher Morris Jr. that looked like the class act and probably the fastest car out here.
And with that mistake, look who we've got up in the top 2. The guys that are trying to run him down for the championship. Second in points, Hounshell is second. Third in points, Dallas Myhand is the race leader.
Cleanest car up front, though, looks like that 51 of Zach Onsen, who, like I've stated, hasn't used a fast repair yet, I believe, for that 51, and just is looking clean. He's got a little bit slight damage on the front right, but looking pretty good for the 51.
Also got Hank Steinmiller up there. He has been strong today. Gerald Campbell has been one of those drivers that's been very willing to go up and make a second groove in battling for the race lead. And just behind them, don't count out some of these other guys. Jeff Green, Joseph Causey, even Tyler Riggs back there. He may have used up both his fast repairs, but now it's kind of basically bring home the trophy or bring home the steering wheel with the limited number of laps we're going to have left to run.
Yeah, Seth Arlson, who now is on the lead lap, he's used his final fast repair, so he's done for the night on repairing that 07. And now it's just, if you drive and get whatever you can, pace car lights are off. We're going to be going green here, and you've only got about 4 laps until, if a caution comes out, the thing's going to end under yellow.
So the question is, are we racing to the caution flag or are we racing to the white flag? Dallas Myhand, who finished runner-up here the last time we were at Daytona, leads us back to green. They're starting to fan out from 3rd, 4th place on back.
Yeah, Campbell trying to make his bold moves, trying to do his best Blaine Atkin impression of going and making as many passes on the inside. Talking about the inside, Dallas Myhand trying to hold off Hounshell, who's going to be digging on the outside. And here comes Onsen and the rest of the crew.
Hounshell's making it work by himself for the moment. Now he's got some help. It's going to be Steinmiller and Campbell up there on the top side. Bottom, it's going to be Dallas Myhand, Zach Onsen, and Jeff Green.
Jeff Green, Tyler Riggs, those are 2 drivers that I'm watching for. They've been just waiting and lingering for their time to move forward. That's the same thing that Hounshell's been doing all race. He was waiting for his time to shine. Coming across the line, will be 7 laps to go, and these drivers are going to be hunting for everything.
First in the standings, Christopher Morris Jr. still on pit road, getting damage manually repaired. He's fallen to 16th in the running order. The guy trying to run him down for the points lead, Jake Hounshell, he's fighting Hank Steinmiller for the lead.
A driver that wants a yellow right now, immediately, but don't be involved. That's going to be Kyle Johnson, who's 1 lap down, the only car 1 lap down, but he's in the middle of the field, and he's got to be careful not to be involved just in case the caution comes out.
These cars dancing down the back straightaway, maybe not necessarily nerve-wracking with bumping unevenly, but with door banging each other here, as there's not a whole heck of a lot of room being given on these straightaways.
You're carrying so much speed into these corners. The drivers have to let off in some fashion to make sure they don't run into the car in front of them. And so they're able to take these corners with the speeds that they're going in. It has been late. It has been quick. Entering the corner going over 215 miles per hour. These drivers are screaming quick.
I'll guarantee you that when we get to that point where the race could possibly end under caution, if drivers see smoke up ahead of them, they will not be using the brakes. It will be never lift time, because if you are able to make some passes on some wrecked race cars, it could very well be the pass for the win, as Steinmiller and Myhan together move to first and second.
It looked like our top three were about to try to pull away. You also got to worry about teammates working with one another. You got Gerald Campbell and Tyler Riggs on the outside. Those guys are teammates, and they love working with one another, been able to finish at least around one another most of these races, and we'll see if either one of them can get a win here, as they are staying in the back for now, as we're now 5 laps to go.
Sparks flying at the rear of the field as Joseph Causey got the wall off of turn 4. Harlson got it in the tri-oval, and Randy Kokian had to take evasive maneuvers down on the apron heading into turn 1.
Yeah, looking where drivers are right now. Seth Harlson still has the draft of Causey and can try to bring himself back into this thing, but up front, they're staying single file for the first 4. Then you got Bo Brady leading that outside line. We haven't really talked about him throughout this late run. It was during the middle of the race when we were talking about that 9 machine.
Here's the tough part here for the front runners. They want to hug that inside line, but in doing so, the way the cars are set up, the car wants to turn down towards the apron. Saw both Steinmiller and Myhan get the apron and almost drift up the track in 3 and 4. Got to weigh their options here, as we are now at the point where a caution would end this race.
Bo Brady scrapes the wall, losing momentum. Kyle Johnson's going to be touching the apron, drifting up and blocking Tyler Riggs kind of there, as the drivers are running very close.
Boy. Myhan took a look, and Hank Steinmiller slammed the door on him.
We're coming up when they cross the line.
Johnson, what a save there in 3 and 4.
He's still trying to save it in that 51 machine.
Still green. Still green as we come down to 3 laps to go. Can they make it to the white flag? They're trying to wreck.
Next caution will end this thing. These drivers are now racing to the next flag. If it's a yellow or a checkered flag, that's what they're looking for. The white flag is just an indication of the final lap, but these drivers know it's all about being up front at this moment.
Look at how the race, the whole lead pack is completely changed, with everybody trying to allow the 51 Avanson to save his race car. Your top 3 are now all together. 4th place on back, trying to catch up as Myhan goes for the race lead.
Dallas Moy in contact with Steinmiller.
Steinmiller to the wall. He will. Oh, another one spinning there, Harlson. It's off the course. They're going to make it back here, at least a 2 to go. You got Riggs down on the
Riggs and Jeff Green. No. Green's out of it. Yellow flag. Dallas Moyhan in the lead.
They crossed the line. They're racing back, I do believe. So it's going to be mano-y-mano. Myhan in the 41. Houndshell in the 83.
They're running hard. They're screaming down the backstretch, trying to carry as much speed as possible. And I believe, no, they are actually slowing down. That is the race.
Oh, man. Dallas Myhan. Right place, right time. Right time to make that move on Hank Steinmiller as well, because it was the move that just a couple of corners later is going to get him this victory with the timing of that yellow flag. He was runner-up at Daytona in the season opener. He'll finish half a car length better here tonight, P1, as he just received the white flag.
White flag in the air for the 41. You love to see it. What brought out this caution was Tyler Riggs. Tried to run the apron going into the tri-oval, was on the apron for too long, and when he came back onto the racing surface, contacted the Jeff Green, and around drivers went, bringing out our final caution and what brought out the end of the race.
Riggs is going to finish in 8th. Green is going to recover his race car in the 11th position. Looked like we had a couple of other drivers maybe spinning around there as well. I don't think anybody is going to be out of this race. I think they're all going to be able to at least limp their race cars back to the checkered flag. And there's a couple of drivers here that we're going to be seeing in the finishing results that, man, they got some pretty good finishes out of the outcome of that final few laps. But the thing I'm looking at right now, when we get to next week's race, those points are going to be closed up quite a bit, because Christopher Morse Jr., 9 laps down, still on pit road in 16th. And again, look at your top 2 finishers. Myhan's going to win. Houndshell's going to finish 2nd. Those 2 were trying to catch Christopher Morse Jr. here tonight at Daytona.
Yeah, and it was really, they needed this type of a race. They needed to see Christopher Morse Jr. have an off week, finishing back in 16th position. A rough day for him, but Dallas Mayan and Houndshell, they're loving this, finishing 1-2. And Steinmiller, after his chaotic save, was able to finish in third. I mean, there's a lot of, on these final 10 laps, where you didn't know where some drivers were going to be finishing up.
Bo Brady, who we saw spin out to bring out the last caution, not the one that ended the race, but the caution prior. He's going to bring it home in fourth place, and Shane Lake in his debut here tonight in the G-Force Racing Series finishes Daytona with a top 5.
Top 5 finish for that 81 that kind of just been lingering around 10th place most of this time. Found himself finally moving up to top 5.
Looks like Tyler Riggs was hit with an EOL for that last incident. We're going to go back and take a look at a replay, see what happened between him and Jeff Green.
Yeah, I mean, it really started when they were entering the tri-oval with 3 laps to go. And there was nowhere for these drivers to go, really. And Tyler Riggs tried his best, but contact was ensued and chaos behind.
The other drivers that were collected up in this one, it looked like, was the 46 of Joseph Causey. And yeah, I mean, Jeff Green threw a heck of a block on Tyler Riggs there as well, kind of forced him down below the double yellow line. So, to your point, especially there in the tri-oval, carrying that much speed and probably the least amount of banking as opposed to the high banks of 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Not a lot of curbing to be able to scrub off the speed when you come back up onto the racing surface.
No, there really wasn't. And when I saw him go down on the apron there, I was like, I don't think that's going to work in my head. And it really showed that it didn't. But a car that's excited to get this win. I mean, Dallas Mayan, what a season to finally get this win. Was almost got it on the first race of the season. Wasn't able to get it done there. Almost got wins throughout our first 5 races of the season and just continue to just fall short. Finally gets the win here and helps so much in the points race.
Yeah, Dallas Mayan came into this race 89 points out of the points lead behind Christopher Morris Jr. And of course, that was including all of the drop weeks and everything after the conclusion of last week's Michigan race. And they run the 1987 point standings with Christopher Morris Jr. down there in 16th place and Mayan winning this race. That interval is going to be cut into a huge chunk when we get to Watkins Glen next week.
Yeah, it's going to be cut off, and really a comfortable points lead that Christopher Morris had is now kind of in shambles in a way where he's got to now finish well and up front in front of Jake Houndshell as well as Dallas Mayan. And Houndshell has been consistent just as the 3 has. And with no more drop weeks, it's all about your consistency for these final couple of races.
You want to know why we call Daytona and Talladega the wild card races? This is the very reason, because it always plays a factor into the season, whether it be for a driver maybe getting their first win of the season or a driver getting themselves back into the championship hunt. As we look through the remainder of the top 10 finishers, Gerald Campbell vying for 3 wins in a row, comes up just a little bit short, but still a great run in 6th. Randy Koking, how about that driver? He kind of spent most of the day riding at the back, but all the mayhem happened in front of him. He gets 7th. Josh Cottle, we saw him with a lot of hard hits in tonight's event. He'll get 8th. Zach Onsen, after maybe one of the better saves here tonight over in 3 and 4, he'll get 9th. And Jeff Green, as we mentioned, spinning out there on that last caution, is going to bring it home in the 10th position.
Yeah, I honestly thought Jeff Green had the car to possibly make a last push there, but caught up with that contact with Tyler Riggs, and the chances were foiled. And, it continued to look and see of other drivers. I know this is a huge win for Dallas Mayan, but I mean, that just shows that anyone could win here. And this 41 machine, we're used to him always having the potential of a car that is safe and ready at the end. And he had a car that was completely had fast repairs if needed and always was prepared even at the end of this race.
Dallas Mayan also drove a very clean Daytona race. I'm pretty sure the only incident he was involved in today was that incident out of the tri-oval all the way back on lap 3. I think aside from that, he didn't get involved in any other wrecks tonight.
Yeah, he just put himself in the safest positions at all times, and luck also helps a ton here at Super Speedway races, making sure that You got the skill to make sure you can be up front, but the luck to be up there and win the race.
Well, our top three finishers certainly were lucky here tonight to survive the mayhem of Daytona, and let's get some interviews with them. Let's kick things off with our third place finisher, Hank Steinmiller. Hey, Hank, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you. How you doing?
Well, a crazy 80 laps here tonight at Daytona. You had one of the cleanest cars out there, though, but how difficult was it being able to figure out where the trouble was going to break out and how to avoid it?
I don't think figuring out where it was too difficult. It was, once you saw them, they were like magnets. You could tell which cars were going to be closer together than they were, and then there was a lot of trust in that top 7 or 8. I would say there were times that there was inches in between each car, and it was just a little give and take here. You didn't lose too much momentum, so it's pretty good racing.
We saw you make multiple charges up to the front during the course of this event. You took part in the season opening Daytona race as well. That was under daytime conditions. Tonight we ran with a little bit of a cooler track temperature under the lights. Was there any major difference between the way the car handled in the season opener and tonight's event?
I actually did miss the first 2 or 3 races, so I wasn't here for the Daytona one. But if you compare it to Talladega run under day also, there was a lot more grip in the track being under night, but after a while, it's just hard to hook that bottom with these cars. That's why I was more comfortable being up top. I wanted to stay up there, but everyone was just going wherever the line was.
Yeah, I mean, Hank, with this being at a super speedway race, you had tires to worry about as well as fast repairs. How was it trying to manage your fast repairs and when to really utilize them?
I didn't even use one. I had just a little bit of contact, I think, on that first caution, and it was only like a half a second of optional damage. So I didn't use a fast repair, and I only used one set of tires. I was kind of on the fuel mileage game at that point. That last caution came out, and I had too good a track position to pit for more tires, so we just kept it out there.
Well, Hank, you came into this race 5th in the point standings overall. Of course, after Michigan, the drop races were calculated, and you've still got a mathematical shot of being able to be up there and hunt for that championship. So what's the mindset heading into these final 4 races of the season?
We're going to try to keep all 4 corners on it next week. That is not going to be a good track for me. I'm not very good at going in the right direction. I'll go left, but I can't turn right. So I guess just keep plugging away at these top 3s. Just keep getting these top 3s and see what we can do. But I really wanted this win, and I thought we had it. Dallas pulled an awesome move there. It was picture perfect.
Well, Hank, obviously, congratulations on surviving Daytona here tonight, finishing up there in the podium. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. Chris, for this league, this was an awesome race. I think one of the best ones we've had. My sponsors, Juicebox Pod, Trust Plant Near Me, and Voice of Morgantown. Go check them out on their social medias.
That's Hank Steinmiller. He finishes 3rd place here tonight at the High Banks of Daytona. Congratulations on a great run, and wish you luck next week at Watkins Glen.
Thank you, guys. See you next week, hopefully.
And let's get our runner-up finisher, Jake Hounshell. Jake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I sure do, guys. What's going on?
Well, we know that Daytona is a track where you have to play chess at over 200 miles per hour, and we saw you get involved in an early wreck, have to use an early fast repair. So how difficult was it being able to figure out where you had to put your race car to make sure you didn't have to use that second fast repair early on?
Well, I was really impressed with the way I could work through the field. When I got in that first wreck, I went all the way to the back, and then I worked up to I forget where it was, top 10, and then I got nailed in the second wreck, and that's when I used my fast repair. After that, I was just kind of biding my time and seeing what I could do from the back and being patient and all that.
Jake, obviously Daytona, Talladega, we consider them wild card races, and no doubt tonight, points-wise, Daytona playing a huge factor into what the points aspect, the championship aspect, is going to be heading into Watkins Glen next week. You came into this race 83 points out of the points lead and finishing 2nd with Christopher Morse Jr. finishing back in 16th. How much of a battle are you going to think you're going to be able to put up here with tracks like Watkins Glen coming up?
Well, unfortunate for him, but that does help me a whole lot. And I'm glad that actually happened because Watkins Glen is probably one of my worst racetracks in the entire iRacing series. So I'm not sure what's going to happen next week.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, this race, I mean, everyone was just trying to hold on. I know there's a lot more grip this time around under the lights and also being on the most recent scan of Daytona. But being out there in the draft, how difficult was it trying to bide your time and be patient for the end of the race?
That's the thing. It was really difficult because these cars they don't want to line up. They don't want to bump draft. So if you try and stay in line, someone's going to get a nose under you and pass you, and they're sliding all over the place. So you really can't do 3 wide very well. It was hard to stay in line for sure.
Well, Jake, a second place run here tonight for you. I think you were 6th in the season opener. So pretty good numbers here at Daytona International Speedway. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
All right, thanks. Well, I thank you guys for putting this on. These broadcasts are excellent, very high quality. It's always fun to go back and watch them. And my friends and family are watching at home.
That's Jake Hounshell. Going to be interesting to see how far back he's going to be for the championship now when we get to Watkins Glen next week. But for now, congrats on a great run here tonight at Daytona, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And let's go down to Victory Lane here at Daytona, where Dallas Myhand is standing by.
Sure.
Hey, Dallas, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, man, if we fast forward to the season opener at Daytona, half a car length between you and Victory Lane, but you get it done here tonight at Daytona. What is it about this track that you love so much? Because you seem to do really well in the closing stages.
I'm honestly not too sure because the whole first race of the season, it was just a whole different track, whole different grip level, and the track was just at nighttime. It's a lot more grip and a lot more almost like car control. You have to do more of.
Obviously, we looked at coming into tonight's race. You drivers, as usual at the super speedways, have 2 faster pairs at your disposal. So you had that strategy, having to figure out if you got involved in a wreck, whether you use the faster pair or not, but also only 2 sets of tires for you guys here tonight. And we saw you be able to stretch your tires quite a bit, stay out for a good portion of this race. What was the difference of the feeling of the car between fresh tires and having, I think at one point you had about 30 lap old tires underneath you?
Yeah, I noticed after they just pitted, I pitted around like 40, I think it was, and they pitted, I think, about 10 laps before me. And I noticed the only main difference for me was the restarts. They can get a lot better restart than me in entering turn 1. They can get more grip level. But once we got up to the draft speed and almost race pace, it was much easier to equal out the tires. The tire wear wasn't that big of a difference until a lot late in the race, because I pitted lap 40, and that was the only set of tires I took, and I made it to the end. I knew when they pitted, they couldn't make enough fuel too.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas, there at the end, you had to worry about the caution lap, when that was going to come out. At what point during that last restart were you thinking, okay, on this lap, I need to be up front, or was it, I need to be up front from the start to the end?
I noticed it took me a while during that, after my first pit stop. It took me about maybe 5 to 6 laps to get even near the front, and that was like top 5, but they get the lead in about 10 laps. Was nearly impossible. I knew I had to stay out, stay up front, block the lead as much as possible, and it was a tough one to get. It wasn't easy.
Dallas, we were talking with Jake Hounshell just moments ago. Both you and he came into this race within striking distance of that points lead. He was 83 points back. You were 89 points back. You finished with the win here tonight, and the guy you're trying to run down for the points lead, Christopher Morse Jr., finishes in 16th. So that points gap is certainly going to close up. With racetracks like Watkins Glen, Bristol, Martinsville coming up before the season finale at Atlanta, what's your confidence level that you can make this a championship battle?
I think my confidence level for next week probably won't be too high. I haven't really done a road course race in this car, not at least not yet, until next week. And the next couple of races after that, I think I should be pretty well. I did well at Atlanta at the beginning of the year. And as far as to get past next week, I think I have a good chance of winning the championship.
Well, he picks up the victory here tonight, his first of the season. That's Dallas Myhand. And Dallas, we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
I like to thank my guys at Evo Sinsport, Seth Raw Designs, you guys, of course, as always, broadcasting this series. It's fun to race in this series. And I thank you guys. It's really fun.
Well, Dallas Myhand got to burn it down here tonight, the World Center of Racing at Daytona. Congrats on a tremendous win there, Dallas. first and a second here at Daytona in your career in the G4 Sim Series, and we look forward to seeing what you do next week.
Thank you, guys. You have a good one.
And so as our conclusion of Daytona draws even closer, I mean, Sam, first off, let's just recap Daytona here. I mean, we fully expected to see the slipping and sliding into the corners through the tri-oval. That happened here tonight. However, there was a little bit of a difference in the nighttime conditions as opposed to the daytime conditions they had earlier on this season. And the fact the draft was so much more prevalent, the runs seemed to be more often as well.
Yeah, the runs were what was mainly interesting to watch and see. They were able to carry so much speed, and the toe was so great that it allowed you to really be able to make a pass. I mean, we saw Kyle Johnson do it so many times. Dallas made a great move, but also just to look at the drivers with so much more grip compared to the first race of the season. Being under the lights, it helps a lot.
Now, it's very interesting. These drivers have not run a road course yet this season. Next week is going to be their first one at Watkins Glen International, and it sounded like the running theme of our top three finishers were they're not really looking forward to Watkins Glen.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks where the drivers that feel most comfortable at road courses are going to shine, otherwise known as road course warriors. And those guys, it's going to be interesting to see who are the ones that feel like they can step up and gain points here going to a road course, and who will survive of the drivers that really don't feel that comfortable.
Based on the tone of the voices of our podium finishers, sounds like it's aptly named the Challenge at the Glen next week, as these drivers will be battling for 45 laps. Also going to be really interesting here as well to see what that points gap is going to be between Christopher Morse Jr., Jake Counshell, and Dallas Myhan, because it was looking like Morse Jr. was going to run away with this thing.
Yeah, it really did look like it for the longest time. I mean, Christopher Morris Jr. has just been consistently up front, getting top 5, top 3 finishes, has a couple of wins. So I'm not surprised the 3 machine was doing so well as being our points leader, but due to having drop races for these drivers, it's really closed everyone up points wise. And after a poor showing here at Daytona, the 3 machine needing a rebound next week.
Well, a wild race tonight. Daytona from start to finish. Dallas Myhan picks up his first win of the season, taking the checkered flag in the Firecracker 200 presented by Belly Up Sports. Once again, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. We hope you tune in next week as we will be at Watkins Glen International for the Challenge at the Glen. And Sam, an 80-lap grueling race for us up here. I think we're going to have to check our blood pressure after this one, but I appreciate you joining me.
It's always a pleasure there, Seth.
We'll see you guys next week here as the G4 Sim Racing Hijinx Clothing Company 87 Series draws even closer to the end of their season where a champion will be crowned. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.